In this session, we are going to rewrite the sales bar chart question to use method for print out the bar chart. The part where the asterisks are printed out should be done with a method. If you remember the original bar chart question, it asks you to write a program that asks the user to enter 5 store sales. Then it will display a bar chart comparing each store sales. Each $100 of sales will corresponding to 1 asterisk. And eventually this will be the output. So I believe it's in assignment 3, sales bar chart, right? So now we have this question and we already get the code ready. Let's create a new class. Oops, not interface. Let's create a new class, sample question, sales bar chart using method. So let me add the Java doc first. And I'm going to copy the question here. Just to make it look better, try to use this method for each bar. Okay, so we are going to copy the main method from the original question into our question in order to save some time. And let's review the workflow. The workflow is starting by getting the scanner, getting 5 cells into cells 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then print out the bar chart title, followed by, for each store, we're going to print out store 1, store sales 1, store 2, sales 2, etc., etc., etc. So how are we going to convert this into a method? Apparently, you can see the following are the same, except the whole code are the same, excuse me, except for the except for the 2 places. One is the store name. Another is the sales. So these 2 will be parameter that we will pass in. Let's create a public main integer, or in this case, we are not getting anything, so we'll just use a void. Void print bar method. This method will have 2 parameters. The first parameter, static. I don't know why I put the main instead of static here. The first one should be the store name. And the second one should be the integer, sales. Is that the integer or double? Oh, I actually used integer, okay. Integer, sales. And now we can copy this over and use store name to replace this print part and sales to replace this part. So now we have this code, right? So when you need to write method, for this particular case, we are just going to replace whatever is different. And this will be the pattern. In the future, when you start writing method and you try to reuse method, the first thing you want to check is always the difference between 2 different logics. What are the same? What are the difference? And the differences either can be a parameter or can be a result from the change of parameter. And in that case, you will need to identify the logic and use this changing parts as the parameter for the method, right? So for store 5, it will just simply be print bar, store 5, and sales 5. Similarly, for store 4, we will just do store 4 and sales 4. And store 3, sales 3. Store 2 and sales 2. Store 1 and sales 1. So now let's run this. And I'm going to input, I believe it was 1,000, 1,200, 1,800, 800, 1,900. And this is the output. As you can see, the output is pretty much what we have already seen before. Now, the advantage of doing this is this code, using the method, number one, it makes the logic much more simpler. Instead of a code after code, now you have methods, and with a proper naming, you know what it's doing. It looks much easier to understand the code logic. And second, if you want to change anything, let's say I'm not going to print the asterisk. I want to print out equal sign. You need to only change it once here. You don't need to change it in all 5 places. And in a large program, you may not even know where your code is called. So in that case, the ability to change the code in one place is very important. All right, let's say 1,200, 1,000, 1,800, 800, 1,900. And now you are using equal sign instead of asterisk just by changing one place. And it will make easier for readers. This is from the code writing perspective, code writing and the changing perspective. And for the reader, it's also much easier to understand what you are trying to do here. And you can see that throughout the course, I have been emphasizing on one way of doing these things is to reduce the number of possible change using different technology. And this is very important because code will always change. Code will always change because the business will always change. We are living in a ever-changing world. All the business are changing, so the code has to be adjusting appropriately. So writing code with change in mind is very important. And to do that, you have to think about what may change and utilizing ways to help you reduce the effort if you need to change.